Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Amelia Proclaims Liberty. There has been so much going on in our nation recently. There has been such a buzz in the air, and I have absolutely loved it. Of course, there have been a few negative things going on in our country, like always, and we might get to those later. But right now, I want to focus on the great positivity and beauty happening in our nation right now. Of course, we are days away from celebrating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That was the documents that our founding fathers signed where they said, listen, we have been British colonies for so many years, but we are not being represented in the government of Great Britain, and they are abusing their power over us. They're taxing us and doing other things, treating us like British citizens, but yet they're not representing us in the government. So we are right now declaring our independence. We now become the United States of America. That happened in Philadelphia at Independence Hall on July 4th, 1776. And guess what? In a few days, it has been 250 years since that monumental occasion, and we are still a nation. We are still the United States of America. It makes me think of our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. It was written by Francis Scott Key. He was a prisoner of war on a British ship, and he could see Fort McHenry from the ship, from the little window in the ship that he was sitting by. He was watching Fort McHenry be bombarded by the British. And through the smoke and the fog, he couldn't really see if the American flag was still waving. And he wrote those words to our national anthem, those beautiful words that end in, "Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?" And when the fog lifted, he saw, yes, the American flag was still waving. You know, that makes me think of how vulnerable our freedom is. And if we do not steward our freedom well, it could be taken from us at any moment. Francis Scott Key wrote those words. But you know, it is the job of each and every American to make sure every day that our flag will still fly. The land of the free and the home of the brave. You know, we as Americans have grown accustomed to freedom because it's all we have ever known. And yes, the government and different entities have tried to take away our freedoms, and sometimes they have succeeded in certain areas. But you know, as a whole, we are still very free. And we think it's normal because, like I said, it's all we have ever known. But you know, most of the world does not taste the freedom that we enjoy every single day. You know, in a few years, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Constitution that was written a few years after the Declaration of Independence. And you know, in the time that we have had one constitution, other nations have gone through many. For example, France has gone through 15 constitutions in the time that we have had one, and we are still under our one constitution. Freedom is not the norm. Freedom definitely wasn't the norm back then in the 1700s. Back then, dictators and kings and tyrants were the norm back then. But our founding fathers thought to themselves, we can have better in this nation. We don't have to live under a tyrant. We can self-govern, which is such an amazing thing. It was such an unheard of thing back then. But you know, most of our founding fathers were Christians. And I know some of you may not like to hear that, but it's just a fact. Most of our founding fathers were Bible-believing Christians. And they knew that freedom was God's idea. You see, the Bible has so many verses about liberty, including the one that inspired the name of this podcast. Leviticus 25:10 says, "Proclaim liberty throughout all of the land and to all the inhabitants thereof." There are also verses in Galatians that say, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty for which Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." Freedom is God's idea. And so because our founding fathers knew that, and they knew the Bible, they thought to themselves, We need to govern ourselves. We don't want to live under a tyrant. But they knew that they had to be a virtuous people for self-government to work. Many of the founding fathers said that this kind of government can only be for a moral and religious people. Because if you have no moral foundation for your own life, how are you going to govern your life and the lives of others? We as human beings are depraved individuals. And any righteousness that we have comes from God himself. And so in order to govern ourselves, we have to be rooted in Jesus Christ, and we have to be rooted in God's word. If we don't govern ourselves, someone else will come in and govern us. I remember when I was a little girl, I'm talking a little girl, like a child, like single digits. And I remember thinking to myself, I am so blessed to live in the United States of America. Of all of the places I could have been born, I was born here in the United States, a free country. Now, I didn't understand all of the details about government back then or about the various nations and what kind of tyrants they had, but I knew this, that I lived in a free country and so many other countries were not free. That concept of American exceptionalism was already in me at that young age. And that has never changed for me. I still often think about how blessed I am to call this country my home, to be able to have religious freedom. I can worship how I choose. I can have freedom of speech. The fact that I can be sitting here right now recording this podcast without fear of going to prison is amazing. So many people in other countries aren't allowed to have their own opinions and beliefs, and let alone express those beliefs. But here I am doing that right now, exercising my freedom of speech, which is such a wonderful thing. I have freedoms every day that most people don't even have. And sometimes we take it for granted because, again, it's all we've ever known. But I don't think we understand how beautiful our lives in this nation are. And so I am so excited to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America. I love this country. And no matter what celebrities and politicians say about America, I love America. And I am so blessed to be an American. There is no better example of us being reminded how blessed we are to live in this nation than seeing soccer fans from all over the world come to the United States for the World Cup. Now, I have loved watching these videos, and if you're anything like me, they tickle you every time you see them and also put things into perspective. Again, we're so used to everything. We think these things are just normal, the huge grocery stores, the amazing restaurants, the really good prices for things, and sometimes we even complain. But watching soccer fans come from all over the world, Asia, Europe, South America, all these places, come here and experience the United States for the first time has been so invigorating. And honestly, it's been perfect timing to lead up to America's 250th birthday. There was a content creator on social media, I can't remember who it was, but they said, it's so amazing that these soccer fans from other countries came to America and are reinvigorating Americans' patriotism for America. And I know that's been the case for me. I've watched these videos of like a Japanese soccer fan tasting Texas barbecue for the very first time. It was such an adorable video. He was so excited and absolutely loved it. Take a look.
How big is that?
Bite.
First bite, man. That's your first ever bite of Texas barbecue. What do you think?
Amazing!
Hey, that's a shark.
I love it!
I've also seen so many videos of soccer fans from Great Britain go to Costco and are blown away by the free samples and by the bulk items and by the amazing prices. We've seen posts of people going to Texas Roadhouse and yes, even Waffle House, which is kind of crazy, but them thinking these things are so amazing and just being blown away also by the hospitality of the United States. And this has truly blessed my heart. And also, there's Freddie. If you follow this story at all, you know about Freddie. He's a German soccer fan who just started documenting his trip in the United States for the World Cup all over X. Honestly, I don't even know if his name is really Freddie and what he actually looks like, but that's what his profile is. And he has documented traveling all over the United States, every stop along the way. And you know, what's really sad is I believe Freddie is more patriotic about America than a lot of Americans, and that should be convicting to all of us. But he has had the time of his life. Let me tell you, this is probably the highlight of his entire life. It has been so wonderful to watch, and I encourage you, go check out Freddie's social media and see all the posts he's been posting, and there have been so many positive things, but I want to break away from that for 1 minute to talk about one negative thing. Freddie made a post, and in that post a few weeks ago, he said, people, Americans, in the comments on my social media post, about every second comment is someone saying that I should go to a strip club. And he said, is that normal behavior in America? And that just really made me really sad that this is the first impression he is getting of Americans. They're telling him to go to a strip club. And he's just so shocked that that's such a normal thing to fly out of people's mouths. And it's just a reminder that strip clubs are wrong. It's insane to me that they even exist anymore because they give almost Wild West vibes, brothels and saloon girls. That's the vibe it gives. And it's so crazy that we in a civilized, developed country still have things like that. So that's really sad to me that Freddie experienced that, people telling him that, and strip clubs should be totally outlawed. And I hope one day we get to the point that they are. Sexual degeneracy of any form should not be allowed. But off of that, I want to stick on the positivity, but please go check out all of the videos from all of these soccer fans from other countries that have just loved America so much. I haven't really watched any of the games. I know that's terrible, but I'm not really a big sports person. But I've kept up on the clips just like many of you. I've seen clips of the games, and I've definitely seen the national anthem played at the beginning of the games that the U.S. was involved in. And let me just say, they bring tears to my eyes. This has been so beautiful because the soccer fans, the U.S. soccer players, you can tell, love America. In fact, in last night's game, or as of this recording, it was last night's game. And when the national anthem was being sung, most of the players were actually singing along with it themselves. And all of the players had their hands over their hearts. And that was so refreshing to see because unfortunately that's not very common anymore for entire sports teams to be honoring the United States during the national anthem. And what was also so beautiful was that the soccer fans were singing the Star-Spangled Banner at the tops of their lungs. It was perhaps one of the most beautiful sounds I have heard. And something else I just love from that video is to see the close-ups of the soccer fans. They're decked out in red, white, and blue from head to toe. We even had some dressed like Uncle Sam. This is absolutely amazing. So when you think that most Americans hate America, think again. The everyday people like you and I love America, and they are proud to show their patriotism. I know celebrities and, media commentators love to talk about how wicked and terrible and racist America is, but that is just propaganda. It really is. Most Americans love America. And we have seen this on full display during the World Cup. I'm so glad that the World Cup was held here on the 250th birthday of America because it has just sparked such a patriotism in our nation, and I am all here for it. Another thing that I thought was so beautiful happened during the Great American State Fair the other night in Washington, D.C. That was the kickoff for the America 250 celebrations. And it came from Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. Of course, he spoke at the event, but then later on he was seen there, on the front row with his family watching this beautiful event. And he was asked by a reporter about America's 250th anniversary, and this is what he told them. He said, the strength of our country is rooted in strength of our families. So to celebrate America 250, we should celebrate our American families. And he also encouraged them to find love, to get married, and have lots of kids. And that's so beautiful coming from a cabinet member. He was seen down there celebrating with his family, holding his little daughter that has Down syndrome. It was just such a beautiful sight. And, in a day when, unfortunately, babies that are tested and tested positive for Down syndrome, most of them are aborted, which is absolutely horrific. Their lives have value and beauty, and they don't need to be discarded. And it's evil that many people would discard those lives. But here we have Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy proudly holding his little girl with Down syndrome and celebrating along with her and the rest of his family. And it makes me think of what Charlie Kirk would say all the time. He would say, get married and have kids. There are so many other things in life. There even so many other wonderful things in life. But family is everything. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love my family. They are everything to me. I can't imagine going through this life alone. And for too long in American society, we have put money and fame and power over our family. If you'd have asked someone, 20 years ago, that same question, they would have probably said, make as much money as you can, climb the ladder, no matter who you have to step on to get there. But now we have so many people that are saying, get married and have kids. Family is everything. And I believe so many people in America are getting back to treasuring their families and not putting other things above their families. So again, so beautiful. I am loving so many things that I am seeing in the news and just in American society right now. Another great decision was made today by a Utah judge, the one who is presiding over the Tyler Robinson case as he's been tried for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This story is, of course, so heavy. Every time I think about it and talk about it, my heart just breaks. And I am so sad because I can still hardly believe all of these months later that Charlie Kirk is gone and that he was brutally assassinated in front of thousands of people and then millions and billions of people on the internet. But I can tell you one thing. I want justice for Charlie Kirk. And I want justice for his wife, Erica, and for his children. I want justice for them. And today, the decision by the judge gave me hope, honestly. Tyler Robinson's defense had put in a request to take the death penalty off the table if he is convicted. And today, the judge denied that request. So that means capital punishment is still a possibility, which is absolutely wonderful. Now, I want to say, I do not rejoice in the death of anyone. I don't. In fact, my heart breaks for Tyler Robinson that he chose this path to murder Charlie Kirk if he is convicted, if there's enough evidence and he's convicted, that he chose to murder Charlie Kirk, that he chose to murder anyone. It's heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking that his life will be either spent in prison, most likely, or even be ended in a death penalty. So I don't rejoice in the death of anyone. But the death penalty is biblical. There's a difference between innocent blood and guilty blood. It is wrong to go up to your neighbor on the street or a random person and kill them. It's wrong to kill an unborn baby through abortion. These things are wrong. These things are murder. But the Bible does say that blood will be shed from a person who sheds someone else's blood. And so Tyler Robinson allegedly killed Charlie Kirk. I say allegedly because, it hasn't been decided yet. They're still going through the trial. But if he is the one, he killed Charlie Kirk. He is guilty of murder. He shed someone else's blood. And so according to the Bible, his blood should be shed because that is justice. That is true justice. And also places where the death penalty, is still legal, it is a deterrent for people. If people know that their life will be ended if they murder someone else, they most likely will decide not to murder someone else. And so it actually is great for society because it helps less murders to happen. And so this was great news coming out of Utah today. Justice for Charlie Kirk. That is all I want to say. So we have one negative story, and that is about the Baltimore Orioles. There have been a lot of crazy things happening in Major League Baseball lately. Of course, we're in the month of June, and so Pride Month has been going on all month long, and so many sports teams and different institutions have all these Pride celebrations. Now, I just want to say, this is great news. The Texas Rangers did not have a Pride night. In fact, they had a family and faith night where actual Texas Rangers players gave their testimonies. That's amazing. And I just want to say right now, I am now a Texas Rangers fan. I know nothing about the Texas Rangers. I don't know the names of any of the players, but I'm a Texas Rangers fan from now on. So hopefully they stay on this course. We also heard the story about the Giants players who wrote Bible verses on their caps that had the Pride logo on them, and how the Major League Baseball issued warnings about that. Players write things on their cleats and their hats all the time. They should have been able to without being made fun of and without being issued a warning by the MLB. Well, let's get back to the Baltimore Orioles. So tonight, as of this recording, there will be a Pride night at the Baltimore Orioles game. And guess what? They will be having a drag queen at the Baltimore Orioles game. Not only will they be having a drag queen, the drag queen will be highlighted at, wait for it, the most family-friendly attraction at the park, of course. That's not a shocker. They always do this. But I guess at the Baltimore Orioles games, there's a section called the Bird Bath where fans can sit and get splashed by water, kind of like at maybe a dolphin show, at a zoo. You can sit in the splash section. It's kind of that concept. You can sit in a section and get splashed by water. Well, tonight, a drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race will be highlighted in the Bird Bath. His name is Heidi in Closet, and he will be there. Who wants to bet? And no, I'm not a betting woman, but who wants to bet that there will be probably a majority children in that section? Most likely that will be the case. And I just want to say right now, we as Christians and we are as conservatives are not against drag queens because we think they have less value as human beings. We are against drag queen shows because they are inappropriate for children. We all know that most drag queen shows are very sexual in nature, making them very inappropriate for children. Really very inappropriate for anyone, but especially children. Now, I know that not every single drag queen does sexual things. For instance, Drag Queen Story Hour. Some drag queens just sit in a chair and read a book to children. But even in that instance, that is wrong. And you may be thinking to yourself, why, if there's nothing sexual happening or they're not dancing provocatively, why would that be wrong? Because it is confusing children. God made male and female. And when you have a drag queen who is dressing like a woman, who is acting like a woman, who is going by a woman's name, performing or reading for children, it is confusing that child. It is going against biological norms. It is going against nature. It is going against truth, and it is confusing that child. You don't have to be a Christian to see that or believe that. There are atheists that are against drag queen shows for kids. There are gay people that are against drag queen shows for kids. You don't have to be a Christian to see that. But I do want to say that to those gay people that are against that, thank you very much. I really appreciate you standing against that. That is absolutely wonderful. We need you in this fight. But it is so important to understand that the acceptance and normalization and celebration of homosexuality in our country led to this. Because same-sex relationships also go against biological truth. They go against nature. They go against how God created us. And so it started there. Actually, it started way before that. People refusing to get married, to have relations together, people refusing to get married, to have families. It started there. You see, when we open ourselves up to anything outside of God's design, marriage between a man and a woman for life, we've opened ourselves up to confusion and chaos. And that is what we are seeing on full display right now in our country. So if you are a gay person out there, or you're a trans person out there, or you're a drag queen out there listening to this, please know that I care about you. And I will pray for you. And I want nothing more than for you to understand and see the love that Jesus Christ has for you. He loves you. He loves you too much to leave you where you are and the way you are. He died on the cross to make you like himself, to make you who you cannot be in and of yourself. He loves you, and he can redeem and save you and set you free. We are all sinners. We deserve to die and be separated from God forever. But he loved us so much. He's like, no, I don't want to leave them in their sin, in their confusion, in their chaos, in their despair. I want to save them. And he died on the cross for you to set you free. All you have to do is come to him and say, Lord, I believe that you died for my sins to pay the penalty of sin that I owed. And I know I'm a sinner. And I want to say right now that I am going to choose you over my sin. Not that I'll be perfect, but I want you more than my sin. Please forgive me. And please save me and redeem me. I am making you the Lord of my life. And in that moment, he will set you free and redeem you. And you may be thinking to yourself, but what if I still want to do wrong? And you will, because as long as we live on this earth, we will still have our sin nature. You will never reach sinless perfection. But what you will receive is God's Spirit, and he will give you a desire to please him more than other things. And when you do sin, he will convict you, and he will forgive you when you repent of your sin. He will give you a new heart, and he will give you new desires. That's what the sanctification process is, and we are all in it. Please let Jesus rescue and redeem you today and calm that storm inside of your heart. That is what I want for you more than anything else. Before we go, I just want to share with you all just a couple of books that I absolutely love. And this first one is perfect for America's 250th anniversary because, honestly, we fail to know and remember true American history. And let me just tell you right now, it is a beautiful story. So this book right here, it's called The American Story, The Beginnings. It's by David Barton and his son, Tim Barton. It's an incredible book. This one goes all the way through Christopher Columbus, all the way to Abraham Lincoln. And then they have a second book, a second volume. I actually still need to get that one, but it's literally just a timeline and just a book about American history, like just going all through it. There's such a wealth of knowledge in this book. And then also, this is a book I'm getting ready to read, but it's also by David Barton. He's the founder of Wall Builders. I encourage you, go to Wall Builders. They are an organization that is based on constitutional biblical principles, and they know more about history than probably most other people in this whole world. It's incredible. But this book I'm getting ready to read, but it is called The Bulletproof George Washington. I don't know if you all have ever heard this story, but it's incredible. I encourage you to get this book. And then another one, if you want to understand what exactly is happening in our nation right now with the rise of socialism, democratic socialism, whatever you want to call it, read this book right here. It's called Socialism is Evil. It's by Justin Haskins. And, most books about socialism, go through how the effects of socialism are so bad, so that's why it's evil. Well, no, Justin Haskins approaches it like this. With the effects of socialism aside, just the system itself to the very core is wrong. And he goes through why. It's not a very thick book. It's an incredible read. It helped me understand socialism better than anything else I have read or listened to. And then one last book. This was probably one of the best books I have ever read in my whole life. And there's a lot going on in this nation right now and in the world concerning Israel. I didn't really have time to get into that today. I've talked about it before, and I probably will. I know I will in the future. But there's a lot going on with the Middle East and even in the church. Like, what role does the nation of Israel really have in biblical prophecy? And so I encourage you to get this book. Again, best book I've probably ever read in my whole life, The Israel Decree by Amir Tsarfati. It is so good. Amir Tsarfati lives in Israel. He's from Israel. He was in the IDF, and he was also, I believe, the governor of Jericho. And now he is a speaker and author about biblical prophecy. This is an incredible book. This will show you from the Bible. He quotes so many verses because he is a Messianic Jew. So he believes in Jesus. He will take you through the Bible on why God is still in a covenant with Israel, how God is not done with Israel, and why replacement theology is not true. It's an incredible book. I encourage each of you to get it. As you can see, I deeply studied this book. I wanted to mark the pages. Anything I wanted to go back to later, mark a page. Well, I just need to read the whole book again, apparently. But anyway, get these books. There are so many other amazing ones. For America's 250th. Teach yourself about American history again. You need to know about American history, and you need to know about the issues that are facing our nation right now. I hope you and your family have such an amazing time celebrating our rich history on Independence Day. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Amelia Proclaims Liberty. Please subscribe on the platform of your choice and maybe even leave a review to encourage other people to listen. Also, send this to your friends and family that would love to hear this. Until next time, thanks for joining Amelia Proclaims Liberty.